So Rigetti computing, has it the future or not? So you're probably wondering about quantum computing. You're probably wondering what is this all about, and has Rigetti a future when it comes to the stock market, when it comes to having profitability, when it comes to the shareholders? Is it wise to invest in Rigetti or not? So taking a quick look at the company, I can tell that the share price has been going up a lot, especially recently. If you look at the month of October, I can see the stock hit all-time high at around 55, and this is pretty incredible for a stock that doesn't have any cash flow right now, that's still kind of in this research and development phase, because quantum computing isn't all the way there yet. So I will go into this. I will go into what the bulls say and what the bears say, and how they are head to head, and why they are both kind of right. So if you look at the bulls, if you look at, of course, Nvidia, so Jensen even said, that's the CEO of Nvidia, he even said that quantum computing isn't that far away. You know, we're very close to having quantum computing in our firm. So that means Nvidia will use quantum computing once the research points out that it's feasible to use. So what does it even mean? So quantum computing is just a way of doing research, of like providing statements, of like providing output in a more feasible way, in a more, let's say, complex way that normal computers cannot generate. So a normal computer can generate output, it can give you a statement, it can give you some kind of data set. However, with quantum computing, you will get more broad analysis, you will get a deeper insight into however these perspectives are. So this is very important if you are very niche, if you're very technical, if you like software, if you're into really complex calculations, then quantum computing is something that might interest you and that you might have interest for. However, if you look at the efficiency, so this is where the bears come. So this is where people like Martin Shkreli, who is like an activist investor, who has not the best reputation, honestly, but Martin Shkreli even came out and said, you know, quantum computing, it's something that sounds cool. It has the word quantum in it. It sounds cool. It sounds like cyber, it sounds like future, sounds like space, you know. However, the thing is, there is no really need for quantum computing. All the normal computers, they can generate output, they can give you data sets, they can give you all the information you need. And even though it's not better than quantum computing, but there's no need for quantum computing, because quantum computing takes more time. It really takes more processing power. It really takes way more time to really generate that output that a normal computer can do. So a normal computer will give you, let's say, 90% accuracy, but quantum computing will give you 100%. So is this 10% really worth it? That's kind of the debate what these people have, and nobody really knows what the future is of quantum computing. Is it something that's necessary? And you know, the thing is that we might not even know yet why quantum computing is necessary. So this is the thing, we cannot really say, nah, it's unnecessary, or we might need it in the future. So this is where the bulls and the bears really get head to head. So now it's up to you as an investor to make a decision. Will you invest in quantum computing? Will you invest in Rigetti, in IonQ? Will you invest in these companies that do research into quantum computing? And does it make sense to be an early investor in this segment, in this sector? So looking at Rigetti, I can tell the CEO is a very smart guy. This is a check that you should always do. Are you sure that the CEO is capable? Has he the kind of background that you're looking for? You know, has he a technical background, or is he more like a salesperson? Is he more like a business person that just wants to make a company grow? Because this is a huge difference. You know, if you have a founder, if you have someone that's really invested in the company, that really wants to see the company do well and not just the stock price do well, then you have a good CEO and a good incentive behind the CEO. So this is what you always need to check for. So when it comes to CEO, I can tell that he did sell off a few of his shares, like he's selling. And this is not necessarily a bad thing. If you have a lot of shares, you know, you need to convert that to cash, you know, one time, because you need to like pay your bills. Of course, you cannot just have all these stocks and, you know, have your bills pile up. You need to pay your bills, you know, by selling some of these shares. So this is what's going on right now. So if I look at the option chain, so as a quantum investor, as a quantitative investor, apologies, I always look at the option chain, I always look at futures, I always look at derivatives and tailor a strategy from that. So if I look at the option chain, I can tell that Rigetti has a bit of a thinly traded option chain. So that means that once you buy a call option or once you buy a put option, it makes it fairly difficult for you to sell. So if you buy a specific call option for, let's say, $4, and you want to sell it the next day, you might have Rigetti, and you want to sell it, then you can only sell it for $2. And this is very bad because you take an immediate loss, and that's an actual loss of 50%. So this is very high. If you invest maybe $400, you buy one contract, you can only sell it for $200 the next day. This is an immediate loss. And so you need to be aware that if you're getting into this, and especially if you use options, if you use some kind of spread, like a bull spread or some kind of calendar spread that really gives you the the opportunity to bet on the stock rising, then it's very difficult to really position that using these thinly traded options. Because once you want to switch out of your position, you want to close the spread, you want to close the package, then it's very difficult to do that, to unwind that, because there's very thinly traded. So you might make a loss on transaction costs, you might make a loss on the bid-ask spread, and it might take you like a day or maybe a week before you can really unwind the position. So this is something that you always need to take into consideration when you invest in small stocks, and especially when you invest in the option chain of these small stocks. So however, if you are bullish on the whole quantum thing, if you think Rigetti, IonQ, all these firms that are now doing a lot of research, that are now actually burning cash, but in the end they will make the money back tenfold, 20-fold, then it makes sense to buy call options, but always use a spread, always. So this is something that I always would consider as an investor myself. So if I would invest, I would always consider spreads. So I would not buy like a very expensive leap option on this company and then just leave it there and just hope that the stock one time will rise. You know, you need to buy a leap and maybe sell shorter dated options to generate some of your premium back, because you don't want to be exposed to all that data loss, all that money decay, all that time decay for no reason. So you better always use the spread when you invest in these companies. So again, if you're on the bull side, if you're on Jensen's side, if you're on the Nvidia side, you think quantum has a real place when it comes to research, when it comes to data sets, when it comes to generating output, then doing a call would make sense. If you're more on the Shkreli side, you think that this is a good idea. However, with the whole AI hype, people are just trying out everything. They want to see everything work, and AI kind of gives this feeling that everything is now possible. Then the whole quantum kind of space kind of collapses once people say, hey, AI is real, but quantum is just very out there. It's not really necessary. So then when people will start shorting quantum stocks, and all these companies cannot make back all the money that they developed, that they put into research and development, then it's a big loss for you as an investor. Then using put spreads, so buying put leaps, like leaps on the stock, and buying put options makes a lot of sense. And then just sell shorter dated puts to generate some of your premium back. So if you don't believe in the thesis, if you're on the Shkreli side, then just sell the puts and sell the short dated puts, buy the long dated put. And this is one example of an investment that you can do. However, of course, do your own due diligence. Make sure you're on the right side by doing your due diligence, and do not just like buy outright options and think it's going to work. It's not the best way to approach this.